Okay, let's have a look at what's going on IKEA today. Yes, I'm going to get Shane to talk to you about this. This is epic. This is the fuel locker, new fuel tank that we've got to replace the stainless steel ones. But there's a lot going on the top. I'm going to get Shane to talk about that. But let's go inside and have a little bit of an update on what's going on. Okay, so we've pulled apart a bit of the saloon area and got water tanks out, and Shane is putting in the seat, which is also Oliver's wall in his bedroom. So we're just trying to finish that part off for him. Just going to do a bit of a walkthrough, and then maybe you can talk a bit about the diesel tanks and the epicness that is that.
Everything is epicness.
It's a bit of an epic project. Wouldn't recommend it if you're living abroad. And we've also been questioning whether it's even worth it on an old boat like this. It's probably twice as much work. And we're still going to have wobbly hulls at the end of it.
Polishing a turd, I think, is the phrase.
Maybe not.
A silk purse.
Pig's ear into a silk purse. Is that
Making a
sow's ear?
Making a silk purse from a sow's ear.
Something like that. Okay. I want to start though, Shane. Let's start on this side because you have cut that hatch in. So we did show filling in the top hatch and the reasons why we did that. But you have now done a side hatch for him.
Yes.
And there was a little bit of debate over where to position it because this whole section here is the front box beam for the mast. So it's a bit of a structural area. Fair bit of curve in the hull there. That took a little bit of getting your head around. But I think that it seems to be quite nice because under the trampoline sort of funnels in the air as well, doesn't it? So
yeah, it's a good place as far as air flow is concerned. So when you're at anchor, because you have two bows that are wedge shaped, it sort of wedges the air under the wing deck of the boat and creates a little bit of a high pressure just at the front of the wing deck. So when the hatch is open, it has a higher pressure to push through the hatch when you're at anchor. So at anchor, it should be a very good air flowing hatch. So there's a balance of moving that hatch as far forward as possible to maximize the airflow through the space, moving it as far aft as possible to limit the amount of wave splashing and things while sailing on it, and also positioning it so that it wasn't in a structurally vulnerable position. There was a balancing of all of those things. Again, as well, there was huge arguments over how the size of the hatch, whether we put the small one in or the big one in. Everyone wanted the big one, but
when Shane says there was huge fights, there was huge fights. Yeah, that's what we've got. I think everyone's happy with it. And I was just going to point out too that the stanchion sockets look really nice. The fact that you can hardly see them. So the other issue with this forward cabin was that it was leaking from the tow rails, the stanchion socket,
the
hatch. Like it was not a pleasant little space to be in. So hopefully we're going to put a fan in as well. But the more that we can make it passive
with its
airflow, the better. Just in terms of keeping people cool and comfortable and keeping the mold and things like that at bay. Because parts of this too are monolithic than the skin, so that also doesn't help with condensation and stuff like that. So the parts that are cored aren't too bad, but the bits that are just solid glass are a huge problem. Okay, let's move on. So we did do a little bit of talking about Harry's cupboard, which is from Trifork, which was Ericsson 4, I think. So that was some bits that we got out of there. And you've got him doing his little desk, haven't you? So
yeah, he wanted a little workbench / desk in here, so he's been able to use some of the recycled bits of panel from the Alinghi 5 that was smushed up and put in the bin. So
Yeah, he's done a good job of putting that all in and making sure that it fits. And
Yeah.
this here will go over a future.
yeah, so there'll be
Escape
an
hatch.
escape hatch just here. That's got to be made
Yeah.
and installed.
And then this will be removable so that if the boat ever flips and we need to access the escape hatch, this will actually come out pretty easily.
Yeah, this needs to be removable because it could be a complete pain in the backside to get in and out in a capsize situation. So this will be made so that it can be slid out of the way or kept in position if it is actually found to be helpful in its position in the upside down situation.
And then that here is I don't know if we mentioned that, that's a little, that was a bit of housing for
It was a winch button.
winch button. You can see where the button went. That Harry's made that into a step so he can get up onto his bunk. Okay, next bit is the Oliver's room, which you have just finished installing the seat panels. So they're the 15mm furniture, 10mm.
10mm.
10mm furniture foam.
Yep.
Which you put the 600 skin on, correct?
Yeah, it's a 600 QI skin, so it's a 300 gram double bias and a 300 gram 090, so that it's full QI laminate. Really quite grunty, which is nice. And it's still very light. It's substantially lighter than the plywood that was there. So winning all the way around.
What was the difference in weight? Do you know?
It was
I think it might be written on the other side.
just under 50% from memory. So it's just under half the weight.
Yeah.
But also this seat is also much bigger than the previous one as well.
Oh yeah.
So
that's true.
that should be noted. That
Yeah. So we've extended it so that it's a hard 90-degree angle for the seat, which we'll show you when we get into the saloon. Whereas the original one was chamfered, so it was making the seat longer so that you could lie down on it.
Yeah. Also, we made the seat wider.
And wider, yeah.
So the seats are in the base 50mm wider so that you can lay on them more comfortably.
Yeah. Because boats of this size, actually, there's not a lot of lounging spaces. They all have bedrooms
Yeah.
you can go and lie down in, but everywhere else I reckon it's hard to find lounging spaces. Anyway, okay, and then you've put in the longitudinal, which has got a bit of a curve in it. Is there going to be any issues with having a curve in a longitudinal, Shane?
Not in this situation. It's pretty lowly loaded. It's only there to support the wing deck. So should be only light slamming loads. And it's sort of in a region where it's near the front, where it is high, so it doesn't slam as often, and it does integrate into, you'll see there's this big funny dip in the wing deck here, and this dip in the wing deck here is to create more space more headroom in the aft cabin, but it also creates a longitudinal stiffener in itself. So this is a continuation of that longitudinal stiffener to the mast bulkhead. So the actual work that the longitudinal has to do is pretty light. So, but the carbon panel, which was the actual hull shell topside from the race boat, it should be more than grunty enough to do that job. So I don't have too many issues with.
Well, plus it's all laminated in properly now, whereas before it wasn't even touching that piece of the wing deck down there.
Yeah, it wasn't a full continuous taping in that back corner, which technically it didn't need to be because you're already into the stringer of geometry of the wing deck shape, etc., etc. But now it's just, it's all bolts and braces.
Well, and also if anything leaked from the other side,
Yeah, it would come.
it would come in here. So I mean, it has been a bit of that sort of containing and.
Yeah, managing spillages and water issues.
And then the last one, which we have already talked about, is his ceiling, which is that curved panel, more of the same that we've used for the longitudinal. And that Oliver has been working very hard on sort of clear coating and then sanding it back and clear coating because he wants a carbon finish. So, and then this little bit here, that I've just stumbled on something. But that is the extension of the CT40 batten. That is the window mullion.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think we pretty much we've done a lot of this here. I just want to show the finished top coated. But we've spoken at the moment with storage, but we can start unpacking that shortly. But Shane's just finished top coating everything, and
Yeah.
looks rather lovely. We'll do a proper walkthrough once all the work's out. And I think we've already mentioned the pantry, which is a great space. Very excited about that. And this bottom step is carbon panel as well. So recycling that bit. And here's the top.
Yeah.
Or the other side of the...
So now the seat. Okay, so if we look over the other side here and all the mess and carnage that is boat building, you can see that in the corner there was a big panel that sort of chopped this to that so that it was sort of half an octagonal or half a hexagon type thing, which looks really cool, but is really, really uncomfortable because you can't actually lean back into the couch or into the settee like a chaise lounge type thing. So we've rearranged it that it'll be near 90 degrees from the backside seat to the sideways one. It does mean that when you sit in the corner now, your head will touch the mullion if you're in the upright seated position, but that's never the intention. It's that if you're laying down and laying back against that aft seat, that you are, half lounging.
Yeah, it's a lounging spot, not a sitting one. Yeah. I think that is the biggest constraint that we have with the saloon area is the shape of the
cabin top.
The cabin top.
Yeah.
I mean, it does look quite cool and sleek, but it is the reason why you see a lot of that lagoon style upright cabin tops. Is just so that you can utilize the room.
It's a much more usable space.
So
yeah, there's a lot of advantages to this cabin top, weight and aerodynamic wise for the actual sailing. But yeah, then there's the compromise of sailing performance versus livability. This boat puts the priority on the sailing performance than it does on the
comfort,
the voluminous space. The comfort's still there. It's just the voluminous feeling and the voluminous space. So that's that trade-off. The other big job that
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that there is a trade-off in comfort.
Yeah.
But but it's more comfortable sailing.
It's
so it's more
much more
so that
comfortable boat to sail.
The comfort is there from a sailing perspective. We don't slam around, and it's not.
The comfort at the marina is less.
Yeah.
The comfort at anchor is actually, depending on the anchorage. In shitty anchorages, this boat is actually more comfortable than the likes of the lagoons and fountain pajots, and we've actually sort of highlighted that in some anchorages before. Because we have the skinny hulls, the waves pass by the boat much better because we have smaller water plane areas, so the boat tends to slice through the waves that are coming into the anchorage. So the boat in certain anchorages, when they get a bit nasty and roly-poly. This boat is actually more comfortable. So it's a bit of a oddity that I've never considered as a thing until I've experienced it. But yeah. But the other big job we did is we took out the old stainless steel water tank. So they're the new plastic water tanks that will be going in. There's obviously some big benefits in having the split 2 water tanks. Safety is a big consideration. If we have issues with one tank, we've got another tank to back it up. So that's with regards to contamination, mechanical failures, tank splitting or a fitting leaking or something like that. There is 2 options. It's also set up that if there is a mechanical failure and one tank does drain, where the 2 tanks are sort of teed together is a long way up, so that one tank won't drain the other one. So there's a lot of considerations into the safety of our precious fresh water.
And then also, while I'm looking at this, that we're talking last week about putting another CT40 batten as mast post reinforcement.
Yep.
So that's the area there that we're looking at putting that in. Just as a little side note.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, and this is your shelf for putting that water tank on?
Yeah, so the water tank and the bulkhead and the wing deck floor are not at 90 degrees. The wing deck slopes quite a lot. So the water tank needs to sit on a shelf just the same as what the fuel tanks do. So the fuel tanks also have a dedicated shelf that they sit on. Of course, it's never anything simple, so it's a shelf that looks a bit like that, where the this is where the bulkhead is, and the tank has the shelf has to have tie down points in it. So these will be dog bones, the same as what we did with the fuel tank, where there's a fiberglass rod as the dog bone, and a webbing strap will then come out of here up to another connection point on the bulkhead, which will be the same as the tanks, which was a 3D printed part with a carbon fiber tube in it, and a piece of webbing is then lashed into position to hold the tank securely in place. Of course, the ends as well need to accommodate for fittings to go through it, etc., etc. These don't go in quite level. They'll be sort of angled slightly so that the water flows gently towards the pickup points down the end, etc., etc. There's just a lot of work that goes into a very simple piece. And like everything composite, one of the big advantages of a composite panel is it can be 100% tailored to the job. So that's cool. We can put in stiff points, hard points for the dog bone attachments. We can go monolithic where it doesn't need to be cored. We can drop layers out, put layers in, so that we maximize the stiffness and the strength requirements as and where it's needed. But the issue is it does take a lot more knowledge, and it does take a little bit more time to tailor all of those things, but it does end up being very stiff, very strong, and more importantly, very light. The other big job that we had going on was, again, it looks like a super simple job. It's the fuel tanks. Should have been a nice easy job, but of course we're using old parts and old components, so that constrained a few things. One, we had to fit inside a locker space, so that determined the fuel tank, and of course I needed to try and find a fuel tank that was stock standard size and not custom made, because trying to find the custom made ones and someone to build it was a major pain. So I found something that was close, but of course that didn't come with the correct hatch. The hatch it came was a spin-off lid type one, which was no good, because if you had moisture or water on the tank for some reason on the outside, that meant that every time you spun the lid off, if there was water in there, that would drop straight into the tank. So that was not good. I wanted the tank to have an inspection hatch so that I could clean and service the tank. So that was a requirement. So that took the spin-off, well, the spin-off lid was that. But one, it was a bit small and it had the issue that water would go in if you spun it off. So the other thing was, with it being a fuel tank, it required breather vents, pickups and a sender unit. Of course, we're recycling the sender unit from the previous tanks, but the previous tanks were taller and narrower, so that presented an issue that this sender unit was too long. So I had to make this sort of custom to recycle our old sender units. I also changed the filler so that the filler went from being on the deck to being on the tank. Now this was a compromise. The issue with the fillers being on the deck is exactly like we were talking with regards to if there's a little bit of water around the rim here, you take the cap off, the water goes straight down and into your tank. The other issue, and it's a real issue nowadays, is theft of your diesel. And certainly in today's current climate, where diesel is stupidly expensive, it's a real consideration. So taking it off the deck and hiding it inside of a locker means that it's a little more difficult for people to find. There were actually cases of sabotage as well, where people would put stuff in people's diesel tanks. So it's a little bit of security as well by moving this into the locker. Technically, there is some rules about filling tanks from within lockers. So I'm possibly breaking the rule. I may not be breaking the rule because the locker has a big drain. But I'm willing to break that rule.
It's a dedicated fuel locker as well. It's not like there's anything else in there.
Yeah, exactly.
It is just a housing for the
yes,
for the
exactly.
tank.
So I was willing to say, you know what, it's not, when we are filling with diesel, one, it's not very often, and two, it's quite an event and we don't like to spill diesel, all the rest of it, and if it does, we do get spillages. We are there watching and so minimizing the spill. It's not like we stick the Bowser pump in, click it on auto and walk away. That's never ever how we ever fill or how we've ever filled in the past. So we can manage the filling and the spillage more than we could with the security of the tank and the event of water coming in through the filler.
Well, and and also it cleans up the deck, so it's less holes in the deck, which is what the main aim is, and also this gets quite sun damaged as well, so just taking it out of the full sun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All of those things.
Yeah. And there was a lot of things that I went into with the pickups and the returns. So the pickup is straight down into the tank, kept off the thing with bevels on the end, and the return is not on the previous tank was just a waterfall where it only just went in the top and the diesel would drip into the tank. And because it's an older style motor and the injection system can handle a little bit of aerated fuel, it's not an issue. If it was a common rail engine, it would kill it very quickly. The desired methodology is to have this go into the fuel and actually then be pointed away from the pickup, so that we don't aerate the fuel any more than what the diesel pump and engine already has. So
Yeah, and this is a 3D printed mold. So
this comes from a 3D printed mold.
And then you made a glass. This is just solid glass, right?
Yeah, this is a monolithic fiberglass part. but it was not made with, it's not made with epoxy, and it's not made with polyester. It is made with vinyl ester, and a very specific vinyl ester. It's a fuel resistant vinyl ester. Vinyl ester is actually an incredible resin that it has a lot of amazing properties, and amazing properties that can be varied for specific things. And in this case, we got a fuel resistant one from the guys at Easy Composites. Where is it? There we go. Right.
Says it on the label.
Says it on the label. So, the Easy Composites guys supply this in Europe and the UK, and will, so that gives you an option in this region. In other places like the South Pacific, New Zealand and Australia, there's other companies that do it as well. And I'm sure there will be a supplier in the US. But if you are doing fuel related projects, look at your vinyl ester resin as the primary, and if possible, look for a fuel resistant one. So in the cases of this, there is a little extra step in the mixing of things where I have to add the cobalt accelerator separate to the MEKP to pre-accelerate this. So it's a little bit of a pain, but
Yeah, because that's quite a
not-
generous MEKP ratio as well, isn't it?
2%, that's pretty normal.
I thought it was usually 1%.
If it's hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with vinyl ester, you can't vary the catalyst too much. It gets more similar to an epoxy, where the catalyst ratio is a lot stricter to make sure that you meet the property requirements of the thing as well. So you can't go and put 4% MEKP into this. If you do, it actually changes the mechanical and the chemical properties of it. So vinyl esters are not as tolerant as polyesters with mixing. They're a bit more like an epoxy, where you have to be a little bit more.
Do you the correct ratio?
Yeah, you have to get your mix ratios.
There's where it says about the cobalt as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about the cobalt. You need a
Yeah.
cobalt accelerator with 1% cobalt loading, and you put 3% of that in, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Anyway, you'll see here there's these big black washers. These are actually 3D printed TPU. So this is not a confirmed methodology with the TPU. Because the TPU, some people have had success with these as gaskets in fuel related areas, but hasn't been confirmed enough. So taking a little bit of a risk, but it was really nice to be able to 3D print special gaskets for this as well. So these gaskets have a reasonable amount of thickness to them, with printed in sealing lips, etc, etc, etc. So it was kind of cool to have the capability to 3D print a gasket for this. Hopefully they are as fuel resistant and as successful as others have had. So yeah, but let's go and have a look at the one that's actually in place.
Okay. And you'll just notice that we haven't bothered with doing this section of
Starboard side
starboard side hatches at this point, because
we haven't got there yet.
not livable spaces, and that's what we've been prioritizing. So yeah, Shane, if you can see, this is like our sun bleached water inlet. This here was fuel. Shane's already taped up the other side where the fuel inlet is.
And here's the fuel locker with all its rubbish in there.
Oh, it's gonna rain.
So here's one we prepared earlier. So you can see we have down the bottom, the webbing strap with the dog bone, through the shelf that the fuel tank sits on. That webbing then goes through the 3D printed / carbon fiber bar. Okay, so that's all nice. And then I've got to get Anna to sew another loop here and a loop here so we can lash it and make it all nice and tight. Now you'll also note that you can see how I've arranged it so that the filler is now under the main deck area here. So the chance of water falling down and onto this is now much lower. There are other little things like I glued the TPU gasket to the tank so as that we end up with a super sealed area so that any water on the plastic tank can't leak under here. And also if you ever remove this and there is water here, that the white fiberglass part gets removed and the black TPU gasket stays there so that the water doesn't fall down inside the tank. Yeah, so that's what it looks like, and this is what the locker looks like.
Pipes are there because we haven't plumbed it up. Okay, yeah.
And here's an empty locker showing the shelf that the fuel tank will sit on. You can see that there is the hole in it ready for the dog bone and webbing. This side as well that I didn't point out, where the fuel lines actually go through into the boat, has our standard bulkhead penetration fiberglass doodaddy arrangement. Lots and lots and lots of work, but it's all a lot neater, cleaner, more secure. And the other really nice thing was that the fuel tanks are now clear instead of stainless steel, so we don't need a sight glass. We can see the diesel level inside the tank at all times. So that's really good. The old diesel tank had a sight glass on the side. Now the issue with that is technically it's no longer a legal setup because that sight glass was a PVC tube with 2 hose clips at the bottom, which is no longer, you could not actually replace that exact same setup again because the risk is too high that if that tube failed, your diesel would spill out everywhere. So you're technically not allowed in any tank to have a penetration in the bottom of the tank, only the penetrations in the top, so that you could never ever have a fitting failure and have a diesel or a fuel spill.
So we've just replaced one illegal component with another.
Yeah,
We've gone from an illegal tank to an illegal
this one
filler
may not
cap.
be because we've got that massive hole in the wing deck. You saw the hole in the wing deck.
Yeah.
So the risk is if you do have a spillage, technically if you have a spillage through a fuel filler, that it just spills straight overboard, cannot pool somewhere to then catch fire, which is sort of the case with the locker because it's vented to the open, that it can't pool and fill up with diesel or fuel and catch fire because it's got a drain hole.
Yeah, that's true.
Directly there. So I have to read what the thing was there again. But yeah, but there's also new rules around that these should have spill catches and all the rest of it, so it can't spill out and go into the ocean, etc., etc. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's got
At
to
the
be
end of the
practical
day,
as well.
it's got to come down to the user. If the user's an idiot, you can't get around an idiot as a user. So at the end of the day, the user needs to take responsibility.
Okay, and then this is, I don't know if I've shown this before, so these are the new hatches. We're going to have to paint the deck at some stage because all the new paint looks white and it's making the rest of it look yellow. But this has made this front section a lot stiffer as well, which is great. And we will do the same on this side too, as we will take this away and put that. Oh yeah, you can see the side window down below the deck, the netting there. got a nice little visor over it too, Harry, to keep the rain out. So you should be able to open that even when it's raining.
Yeah, well, that was the whole sort of plan and point of it, that
Yeah.
it could be kept open
That's very
at all
nice.
times while not sailing.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to want a hatch like that. Alrighty, that's it. All done? All done?
Never done.
What's the
Hey, El Capitano.
CQC. Where? Howie. Howie, come here. Run. Come on, Captain. What? That's bad.
Say bye.